Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After a long break, me and Quinton have finally gathered ourselves during these crazy times for a special episode of The Common Thread. We are going to discuss the top 15 Star Wars characters. So, thou shalt explain our list first and foremost. I'll just take the cake. How I built my list? You ask? Thanks for asking, by the way. So I took three factors. I did importance, longevity, and then kind of what I just like. So that's sort of the mix of my list for my top 15. Quinton, fill us in. How did you stack your list? And we'll take it from there. Go.
I did my list based off of who I like, pretty much primarily, and also who I think doesn't have a shitty character arc, because a lot of them do. So, yeah.
All right, so without further ado, we're going to work our way from the bottom to the top, and then we're going to go over the user picks that you guys voted for at the end. Stay tuned. Can't wait. I'm excited. So
they don't match.
They do not. None of this. I hope everybody knows. So just so we're all clear, as Star Wars fans, this is where I'll tell you a little background. And I think, Quinton, you should do the same thing. But so for me, I mean, I grew up with the video sets of episodes 4 through 6, the oldies. We popped that in the VCR. We were watching those as kids. And then Phantom Menace came out when I was really little. I remember being blown away by it. Oh my God, it was so amazing. Oh, better graphics and they can do things now, blah, blah. Yeah, so that's sort of how I grew up into Star Wars. Played Battlefront. That was like my childhood video game. Loved it. Has nothing to do with the movie. That's fine. But it was one of my favorite video games of all time. Still is. Still play it. Don't ask. Okay, it's cool. And ever since, I've just been a big fan. Big fan. I don't know if I follow it to like a super fan base, but I followed enough along some of the shows, watched all of the movies, and I'm still kind of getting through the Clone Wars series right now. I'm kind of catching up to speed with that. But yeah, Quinton, tell us your end of being a Star Wars fan.
So the only Star Wars movie I'd ever seen before probably the newest trilogy was episode 3, which is what most people think is the worst Star Wars ever. So I was not really ever into it. And then we eventually, all as friends, saw episode, would that be
7?
8? 8 or no, episode 7.
Yeah.
Episode 7. And then episode 8. And then basically I'd still never seen anything Star Wars or played any Star Wars video games. Never was into it. And then Disney Plus came out. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to do it all in order. I'm going to really, really do it. So I've now seen episodes 1 through 9. I've seen all of the Clone Wars. I'm almost done with Rebels. Seen all of the side movies. Played some of the video games now that actually have storylines. So I think I'm fully caught up. Probably more caught up than you.
I mean, you're probably past me at this point.
And for me, I've watched them all in a very short period of time, so I don't have any nostalgia for characters that a lot of people like that I think are shitty.
Bold tweet, sir. Well, before we go into the movies and stuff, that'll be part 2 of this series, folks. So part 1, we're just going to hash out top 15. And we're going to start at number 15. Without further ado, Quinton, who is number 15 on your list?
Oh, God, I'm scared. Scared to say. So my number 15 is Yoda. Ooh. I have him at the bottom. Bottom 15. Still in the top 15, but the bottom of the 15.
I mean, I'm like probably not the only one that wants to know why, but why? Why? Hit me. Go. Just go. Go.
So I like Yoda as a character because obviously he has super importance. The longevity's there. Although he doesn't really have a character arc, like at least from what I've seen. Obviously, we've like never read the books or anything, so I don't know about that. But I don't really think he has like a huge character arc. He's kind of just this all-knowing presence. Like if the like midichlorians and the Force could be a person, it's Yoda, which I think is kind of annoying because in my opinion, overly helps the characters. Like he gives them too much, just gives them too much to like get them where they're going. So a lot of the stuff is just kind of given to them. Like the information is just like, oh, here you go. This is how you get it. And then like magically everyone's like, oh my God, Yoda, like Yoda did this for me. Yoda's the greatest. And it's like, you would have never had that if Yoda didn't tell you where it was. So Yoda's basically making not legitimate Jedi, in my opinion. And that's why they all got slaughtered. Boom.
Just expect after this episode for your DMs to literally explode in like the best way possible as your best friend.
Does it make a little more sense though? Makes a little more sense.
I get it, but I don't. And we'll talk about that probably never, ever, ever. But so great. That's 15. Great. 15. Good 15 start. Zero. We're starting this off real strong for all of the people that just left. Time to rejoin. Just kidding. So 15 for me. Now my list, I literally sat and I looked at all the characters. I grew up loving everything ever. Number 15 for me, without further ado, Mace Windu. I know people are like, what? Why is he so low? That's great. Because there's so many other important characters to me. And also, he's lucky he made the list, to be honest with you, for somebody who has sort of a bigger part in all of it, but such a little part too in some ways. He influenced the colored sabers. Thank you, Samuel Jackson, for bringing in the purple saber. We are so thankful for you because now we have 40 colors of sabers. So, and then also, he killed Jango Fett. That was pretty much it. And he almost actually, let's not forget the fact that, spoiler alert, he almost killed Darth Sidious, aka Senator Palpatine, when things were going crazy. And he probably would have done it, spoiler alert, if Anakin wasn't a dick. So, but as far as things go, Mace Windu feel like he's sort of that like raw kind of Jedi who's like, he probably could float to the bad side too. Like he's his little swagger, his little I don't know. He's obviously, he didn't like Anakin coming on board. He's sort of like.
That's why his saber's purple.
I know, probably it is. Probably has something to do with that.
Because he uses the darkness sometimes.
But as far as like just a total character arc, you don't really get a backstory to Mace Windu. Like you don't know anything about him other than he's part of the Jedi Council. I think he's like the right hand.
Must be reading the books.
Basically Yoda, right? But like otherwise, I mean, he's a badass. I mean, that's the only explanation I need. He wields a saber like a boss. It was Samuel Jackson who played him. I don't know if it would have had the same impact if it was literally anybody else, but because Samuel Jackson is also like Shaft and like every badass known to mankind, it helped. And I think it does in this case. I think Mace Windu's a badass. And I think a lot of us who feel that way about him probably think because Samuel Jackson. Yeah. So 15, Samuel L. Jackson. Boom. Start my list off. Probably Yoda, Mace Windu. Boom. Got like, okay. 14. 14. Quinton, who's on your list? Go.
14 is Rey Palpatine, not Skywalker. So Rey is supposed to be like the poster, I guess, like female Jedi. But it's kind of annoying to me because there has been multiple female Jedi. And if you actually watched other stuff, you would see that. So like her social influence isn't like, for me, it's not, I don't care because there's been female Jedi and they were all badass. So whatever. And I mean, she also kind of has the same story more or less to Luke, into where all of a sudden she's like basically almost an adult and then just becomes a Jedi, like, and doesn't really go through the years of training like everybody else does. It just kind of magically comes to her, which I kind of find annoying as a Star Wars fan, but I think she still has importance because now in the current Star Wars climate, she's supposed to be like the balance with her gold saber. So I guess that's kind of cool. And that's the only reason I put her above Yoda, really. I would have switched them otherwise, but here we are. We haven't got another movie yet, so I guess we'll come back once they make an episode 10 or whatever.
Oh God, let's leave it for right now. 14, not a bad choice. I get where you're at with that. A lot of people hit or miss with new series, so that's the first of the new series put up on the board, so that's huge as well. For me, another female character, different. I'm gonna go 14, Princess Padme. Now, whoa, holy cow! Like, I feel like she slips under the radar big time. Now, I feel like her and Anakin, like Romeo and Juliet, she slides under the radar big time. I think you deal with, first of all, she's like, you think about the age difference between her and Anakin when they first meet. I'm like, I mean, how old is she really when she's, anyways, so I don't want to think about it. So then, as time progresses, she deals with a very, challenged Anakin Skywalker. It also gives birth to two very pivotal siblings, Luke and Leia, to be named later on, who are a very huge part of the whole development and story plot to Star Wars. But Princess Padme, I mean, also she's a badass. I mean, she gets involved. I mean, she's like the only person of royalty that's like, yeah, I'm going on this mission. Even in the new stuff, even in the old stuff, whatever it is, Princess Padme is like, no, I don't care if I'm a princess. I'm going out, I'm carrying my freaking blaster, and we're going. And she's almost died a few times. Not the smartest, but like she does what she needs to do. I mean, she kind of rises above. She's a great leader. Although the only questions I would have is like love interest wise. I mean, there's some red flags there coming out on the Anakin part, but that's also conversation for another day. But overall, Princess Padme, huge part of the whole series. I think for being her, like the significant other of Anakin and kind of being his core piece. I mean, that's Anakin's whole, like, aside from his mom, Padme and his mom are like the two pieces, right? But we get to know who Padme is. We kind of get little sprinklings of Anakin's mom, but like Padme, we see throughout the whole thing, and we see their relationship kind of evolve. And like, she's a badass, and it's a big piece. So that's 14 for me. 13, Quinton, take it away.
So 13 for me is a super unpopular one, which I don't even think is on the list, honestly. But the more I watch Star Wars Rebels, she's on my list, which is Captain Hera. She's basically like a badass pilot. And she like low-key is the start of the rebellion. Like, she's the one creating the rebellion, which then goes on to take over the Empire the first time. And she's like literally the whole reason it starts, basically. I mean, obviously there's other people who like hated the Empire when it first started, but she's the one who actually started like a rebel force. And so even though I don't even know if she's mentioned in the movies at all. Even I don't remember Rogue One. I don't know if she's actually mentioned in it, but she's literally the start to the Rebels, which is like episode 4 through 9. So, like, although she's not talked about, she's super important. So,
Wow.
and again, badass pilot. So.
Bold. Taking something right out of the old cartoon series. Not a bad pick, though. Again, you got good reason behind it. Even though I don't even have
Again,
her.
no one would think of her. Or
I don't have her on my radar. She's not even on the list, I don't think, that I made. So, and then 13 for me, really just as far as like my favorite of the new series, the first of his kind, Poe Dameron. I just love his sense of humor. He reminds me a lot of myself. Maybe that's why I like him so much. Kind of outspoken, goes against the grain, but he gets the job done. And sometimes he doesn't, but he's still like, I don't know, he's passionate and he's funny. And I don't really know if there's any other reason I need to justify Poe Dameron because he's badass. I thought, he really kind of had one of the better character arcs because they didn't get into his backstory a whole lot other than in the last movie a little bit. He goes back to his like this planet where he might have been something in the past. I think maybe like a
smuggler
or something
like they all are.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, he's overall, I think he's awesome. I think he kind of uplifted some of the drier moments in the new series. So yeah, Poe Dameron 13 for me.
Is Poe the new Han Solo?
That's yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He's this generation's Han Solo. So number 12. Who do we got?
I put Luke. So Luke is also low for me.
Hit me.
So the reason I put Luke so low is because, and maybe this is because even though people are gonna, again, they're gonna roast me in the DMs, whatever. The whole episode, was it 3 through 6, is so like there's not really a plot to it. Like there is obviously like once you get the whole overarching backstory, but when you're watching it, it's like within an hour and 20 minutes, Luke goes from being this nobody dude on a sand planet, and then all of a sudden, he's now like going to be a Jedi. And I think his development is just like way too fast, and I think that's like my biggest qualm with him. But he's also super important because he remakes the Jedi Order, and I mean, he's great in that sense, but then he fails at it, so take that as you will. But I also think the thing with Luke as well is that Luke is, like, the biggest reason everybody likes Luke is because he, like, next to Leia, is, like, the face of the rebellion. Like, he's kind of like the poster boy, so even though his character development is, like, way too fast, he, like, everybody still looks up to him, and he's important in that sense. So that's why he's higher than, for example, someone like Rey, who has basically the same storyline as him. But, yeah.
Luke. So we match on this one. Luke is number 12 for me as well. For me, you talk about the guy who was sort of the icon of the whole Star Wars, like, push. You know, he was the centerpiece. He's the Holy Grail. He was the Charlie of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Okay? And that Luke is the foundation of where Star Wars really took off, and we got so many more things from him in episodes 4 through 6. I agree with you. If you rewatch 4 through 6, here's a little farm boy. All of a sudden, he's a Jedi training with Ben Kenobi. People will talk about the speed of things in a lot of these newer movies, but like the older ones too. I mean, it's like, and he goes from being this, like, when we last see him, being like just this really upbeat, positive guy. And then I don't want to like the new movies really brought him back and were like, humbug. He's sort of like Ebenezer Scrooge in the new movies, right? So we have to like kind of pull at him to be positive Patty. And it's like, what the hell happened? Oh, he tried to kill a kid. Well, like father like son, holy cow. Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And you also like even in the new ones, you don't get a lot of Luke, like for a little bit there. Like he's just being a dick for the entire episode that he's in. And then he kind of just comes back to his senses. I don't know. The whole thing,
I just don't think there's a
it's like poster boy. It's sort of like some of these boy bands that were like in the 90s and like early 2000s, right? Like here they are, amazing, tries to make a comeback. We're not into it anymore. Gone. And for me, like Luke was like, as a kid when I was watching him, I was like, wow, this is fucking great. Now I'm like, Luke, you're a dick. Like even you coming back and saving that one scene where he did something kind of good and like all that, I'm still like, no. No, I think the whole scheme of Star Wars, his character, like, great. Anakin's your daddy, great. That was I shouldn't disown that moment. That moment was powerful. That was a great moment. I'll never forget as my kid. But in the grand scheme of things, bigger and more important things have happened. I don't know.
I just don't think there's a good like between episode 6 and 7. There's nothing like in a visual representation that like shows him transition into being
a dick.
Scroogey. So
yeah, they threw that one out the window. Congratulations.
Like he's got to be on the list, but
yeah, he's got to be. I mean, he's an icon. He's got to be. But then he's also like, oh, you know what? I'm done being a hero. Like he doesn't even care about this whole like the resistance and like he just doesn't give a shit. And that's his whole demeanor. It's like one bad thing happened. Now he's like, oh, forget about it. Like, let's have a good lesson for the kids. Here's Luke Skywalker, savior of all, right? He brings the bad guy, Daddy-O, Darth Vader, to like somewhat of a christening light, but for some fucking reason, Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, is his downfall. Get the fuck out of here. I guess the new series kind of torched his character arc. Therefore, for me, I mean, it's
why some people will say that that's bad, but we'll get into that.
That's why the new series sucks, because they ruined Luke Skywalker. They probably did. But fuck it, I still liked it.
Yeah.
Pardon.
Yeah.
Sorry for all the kids that are watching this. It's no longer PG. I've said 3 F-bombs now. I'm cut off. I'm done. Number 11. Who do you got?
I have again someone who is not in the movies. So back to show. I have Captain Rex. So if you watched a little bit of the Clone Wars, Captain Rex is like. So I kind of think of like Anakin and Obi-Wan as a more like a younger brother, older brother, as opposed to father and son kind of dynamic. But I felt like watching the Clone Wars that although Anakin was Captain Rex's general, Rex is like the father figure to him, kind of throughout that in a weird sense. And then Captain Rex also was like the best clone, basically, in the clone army. He also, towards the end of the Clone Wars, spoiler alert, Devin, they all have chips in their heads. Him and a couple other people, he actually convinces a couple other clones to take the chip out of his head. So when Order 66 is activated, he doesn't kill any Jedi. So he's like one of the only clones that doesn't go rogue. And Captain Rex is also in the part of the start of the rebellion. So he's still like for the Republic.
Never makes a movie appearance. So sad.
Never for some reason. Not even
Not even a mention. Not even
kind of a bummer because
with Ahsoka. That's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Number 11 for me, Han Solo. Now I go back and forth. Han Solo's a G. He's a homie. He's funny. He's great. He's awesome. As far as longevity, I mean, he's right up there with one of the characters that makes it probably the longest. And has made. I mean, he had his own standalone movie. But since it wasn't Harrison Ford, anyway, so topic for another day. I think he's one of my favorite characters all time. But then when I think about his level of importance, he's also a grade A, I can't say it, screw up sometimes. And with that comes some moments where you're like, well, you just put us in a bind. But you got us out of it. But you also put us back in another bind. So, and then let us not forget the Millennium Falcon. Great. I don't know. But number 11 for me, Han Solo. So now we're going in the top 10. Number 10, go.
So for my number 10, I originally had Han Solo, took Han Solo out of the top 15, but I put Chewie at 10. So kind of his Han Solo's right-hand guy, but low-key throughout all the movies, Chewie's kind of, so like you said, Han Solo kind of always digs him in a grave, and Chewie kind of always gets them out of that.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, like, Han Solo's the human person, so that's who everybody likes, and Chewie doesn't have whatever his language is, but, like, I think Chewie shows a lot of heart, and he's kind of the best example of, like, a pet to human relationship, and like that's I think the best way you'll see that in the Star Wars universe. Like, pretty much every time someone dies, like when Han dies, and then Luke dies, and then Leia dies, spoiler, like, everybody's always really sad, but Chewie's always the one who, like, actually is, like, on the ground in tears, like, really upset. And I think he kind of drives a lot of the emotion throughout, like, episodes 4 through 9. He's also super adorable as a child in Clone Wars, so you get that as well. But yeah,
Baby Chewie.
Baby Chewie, baby Chewie, baby Yoda.
Baby Chewie. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's a good one. For me, number 10 is C3PO, and I'm like, so longevity. I mean, he is literally in all of the series. I mean, he is the robot that Anakin Skywalker built from hand as a boy. Tell me how important he really is. Now,
he speaks every language.
He speaks every language. He's a translator of all sorts. He gets them out of more binds than I think anybody ever. He's one of the most useful robots. And he's also, like, I don't know, in the end with him, he, like, comes up massive. He comes up with a massive clutch shot at the end of this whole, saga of Skywalker, whatever, Palpatine, whatever, episode 9. He comes up with a huge play, right? Having that chip that finds the planet where Darth Sidious is. Boom. Spoiler alert. You knew it was coming anyways. But C3PO, kind of like on an importance level, you kind of have to include him. I mean, the guy is literally in everything. Literally almost every movie. Even almost.
I think he's in everything.
Except for those little side stories.
Yeah.
He's in everything.
He's in everything.
So yeah. You can't leave out C3PO. Number 9, take it or leave it. Go.
So just before that, he's on my list. He's higher, so we'll get there when we get there.
That's why. So I'm the same thing. It's fine.
But mine is again from the shows, guys. I like the shows probably more than the movies, so I'm an interesting perspective. Take it or leave it, whatever. Ezra Bridges, who is one of the Force-sensitive children who gets taken in by a Jedi going by the name of Kanan between episode 3 and 4, basically. So again, Ezra is a star, like he's the core 5 of the rebels, who start that to, like, beat the Empire. But Ezra's kind of a mix between, like, they basically try to take every major character and put it into one. So He's a lot like Han, where he's like kind of a scavenger, can get his way out of shifty situations. He's like Anakin, where he's really hot-headed. He kind of dips into the dark side a little bit, but unlike Anakin, stays on the good side. He's I don't know. He's like a lot of people put together. Not to like go into every single character he's like. But I haven't finished Rebels yet, so I know he does some crazy shit and like sacrifices himself, which also gives him super importance. I'm sure of it. I also just like him as a character. So this is one where level of importance probably isn't there, but for me, I like him. I think he's a good example of like what Star Wars is as a whole. If to give him any importance.
I can't add to this because I haven't seen it, so I don't want to be quiet and make weird faces, but I literally have never seen it, so I can't add to anything that you're saying. But sounds like a great guy. I'm sure I'll like him when I watch Rebels. Number 9 for me, Princess Leia, the one, the only, soon and also female Jedi that we come to know later on in life. Also, she's so important. She's always been a believer in the rebellion. She is the core founder of all things good. She is probably higher than Luke for me because she's never given up on that hope. And as sort of like the foundation of, this new series and influencing the younger bodies. She was a part of the old one, had a big influence. Carrie Fisher, rest in peace. She is like, for me, one of the best characters. And she kind of floats under the radar, but she has so many important pieces to everything. And without her work in the series, we wouldn't have good stuff. So I just realized we just listed Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Luke Skywalker, the OG3, big 3, and we haven't even gotten to the top 8. So
I will say though, she was Two-Face in the Empire at like 12, so she was putting in the work. Way young to fuck them over. So
Number 8. Number 8. Close here, kids.
Number 8 for me is Qui-Gon. So yeah, for me primarily it's because I love Liam Neeson. I think he portrayed Qui-Gon great, so that's like just super nostalgic. But I think Qui-Gon is good because he's low-key probably the most level-headed Jedi, like, of them all. He's always, like, trying to think of a way not to fight, which is, like, supposed to be the embodiment of the Jedi, basically. And he'll literally put himself in any situation possible to not have to fight. But when he does fight, he's badass. So...
You don't need Qui-Gon is a badass. He shows up in one movie. That's all we get.
And that's it.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That's all.
He's also Obi-Wan's master. So, like, yeah.
Yep. That's true. Yeah, his influence is huge. 8 for me. Last and only robot left on my list, R2 Beep Bop D2 on my list, shutting it down. Guy is a treasure chest of, oh my God. Like, he carries so many important pieces, information. Let's not forget his message from Leia all the way back in A New Hope, episode 4. Now, fast forward to now, episode 9, he had the last missing piece to finding Luke Skywalker so we could have episode 8. Can I get a whoop whoop beep boop? He's awesome. I don't need to say much else. He doesn't talk at all, but he's absolutely a treasure chest for holding some very important information. Also fixing ships at the most convenient time, and also a part-time, like, he messes robots up. Clone Wars absolutely messes robots up. Don't mess with my boy R2. Also, he shoots fire. Flames, bro. For all the youngins out there, flames, bro. R2D2, number 8. Number 7. Wow, we're moving.
I have C3PO, so that's where he lands on my list. I think C3PO is a little bit higher for me than for you because I don't know, he gets them, I mean, kind of relating back to the shows, but he gets them out of so many situations just by knowing so many different languages. And basically, I mean, he's kind of a pair with R2 in a sense. But
Is he 6 for you?
without what?
Is that 6 for you or no? Is R2 on your list?
He's higher.
Okay.
So, yeah, C3PO, I mean, he's basically like if there was another character probably next to Yoda who like everybody identifies with Star Wars easily, I think C3PO would be that person, because he's literally in all of it, like start to finish in all of it. He also sacrifices his like memory life to save the rebellion to try to beat the whatever they are in the new ones, which I think he does that like a few times in the Clone Wars as well. And in the Clone Wars too, he's also like a not like a mentor, but like more or less a therapist for Padme, like because Anakin gives Padme C3PO, so like it's kind of her saving grace as well as like her own little therapist, which probably doesn't help because he's probably saying good things about Anakin when Anakin's being a dick. But yeah, that's where C3PO falls for me. He's right in the middle.
That's a good pick. Little high. Good pick. Good pick. I'm going to do 7 and 6 together. Both tweet. These two are interchangeable for me. And this is probably where I'm going to lose people. But and they're interchangeable. But because I went back and forth and I can't decide who's higher and who's lower. But Kylo Ren / Ben Solo and Rey Skywalker Palpatine. So the reason I like them so much, I mean, they were the two star shining Jedis and I say Jedis because Ben Solo is truly a Jedi. I think he's just a confused teenager like Anakin Skywalker was, but more influenced to the good side than the bad side. And you don't really get why he's even on the bad side to begin with, right? You don't really get that, like, why is he on the bad side? He had a couple dark dots, but you kind of, the whole time you get that sense, right? And same thing with Rey. Like, she's like, I'm caught. I don't know. Am I good? Am I bad? He's thinking the same thing. They're kind of conflicted. But together, like Palpatine, Skywalker, there's a new force. And if anybody comes at me with like, oh, that was so bad, like it ruined the series, they trying all these new abilities, that's because technology, people, has advanced. And if anybody wants to tell me that they wouldn't have done this 30 years ago when they had the opportunity, you're full of shit. Okay, there's your lecture for today, because they absolutely would have. George Lucas in a heartbeat would have been like, wow, we could do this, force things, and boom, pop, lightning out of sky. You know what that would have looked like with the 70s and 80s graphics we had? Car antennas, right? Strapped together like a fucking Christmas tree, and that's what would have been. So you're welcome. Modern day technology brought us these two great gems. Adam Driver is a freaking great actor, by the way. Absolutely crushes the role as Kylo Ren, and he creates almost that dark into light character. You love Kylo Ren, his mask, what he's trying to be. He doesn't need it, though. Screw the mask. And then you get Adam Driver, right? I thought it was kind of awesome that they just took his helmet right off right in the beginning, because I was going to itch and I want to know who that is, right? And then he's just a pissed off, confused, I assume in his 20s, something-year-old. We get it. As millennials, I totally understand that now. I would love to come home some days and just fucking cut shit. Now I'm cutting off my swearing radar. I think those two are 7-6 because of their importance. They kill the freaking never like dying Senator Palpatine / Darth Sidious, who just doesn't die for some reason and finally decides this is going to be it, because these two team up to create part of my favorite duos of all time. And I don't know if it's because Adam Driver's awesome. Don't get me involved in their love interest. I don't give a crap about that. We'll talk about that down the road when we cover the movies. But also covering in the movies, their powers still 7-6, Kylo Ren and Rey Skywalker. Okay, go 6, boom.
Ben Solo, also. So yeah, he's the best. He's the best person to like showcase going from dark to light, probably in Star Wars, or going from light to dark to light, whatever. But he also sacrifices his own life and basically gives the life that Leia gave him back to bring balance to the Force. So, like, yeah, the movies might have sucked, but like when you break it down,
his
like,
mental state of mind, though,
that's pretty
you're
important.
watching his mental state, though. Like, that's the crazy thing. I love it because it's just a battle with his mind and the whole thing. Ugh. And his Saturday Night Live skits. Ugh, they suck. Yeah. They're awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Just take us away on number 5 now, too, because I'm ahead of myself now.
So number 5 for me is, which I won't do 4 and 5 because they're also kind of interchangeable. But for me, it's Obi-Wan. So I had a huge tough time with this one because do I like Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I hate him.
Yes and no. I really like him, but at the same time, I also think he's a huge reason why Anakin becomes Darth Vader. He's basically, again, he is playing the older brother figure where he should be playing the father figure and lets Anakin get away with too much stuff, which then drives him to the dark side. Bold opinion. But he's also a badass. He kills Darth Maul twice. He's also, I think, next to Anakin, the best like Jedi fighter. I mean, it's kind of shown with all the people that he's killed, but
bold tweet. I'm going to talk about him later on. So 5 for me, Darth Sidious, Senator Palpatine. Now, if he's not in the mix for the top 5, you want to talk about importance? The dude literally is the capstone to the dark side. Like, he is the founding father of the darkness. I mean, he's literally said, you know, he's killed all of his other dark mentors before him. He's a sick, twisted, messed up dude, and he slides in as a senator, messes people up, plays the game, plays it well, and influences Anakin to join him. Boom, roasted. I mean, he is the worst. I mean, you gotta hate him. You gotta hate him. I mean, I don't know if anybody really likes him. I don't know if you really, like, if it was solely based on who's your favorite character, definitely not Palpatine. I mean, I don't know if anybody's like, Palpatine, Bill, then you're sick. You need to get help. The only reason why he's in the top 5 is importance and longevity. Is he even on my radar for top 15? Like, if I had to pick, like, my absolute nothing, like, about power, importance, longevity, no, he doesn't touch my scale. This, he does. He has to. He is the influencer. He fights, like, some of the best Jedi in the world. He's killed some of the most notorious OG pimpin' guys. I don't know if he got the last shot in on Mace Windu or not. I don't know. I don't remember if he did give him one last shock of lightning. And I think he did, actually. I think he did push him out. Maybe it was Anakin. I can't remember now. But anyways, either way, Palpatine 5 for me. Now we're in the final 4. Lead us off. Who's number 4?
Oh, okay. So this is super bold. And he's actually my favorite. Like, don't take into account importance or anything like that, which kind of probably shows a lot about myself. We'll get into that another time. My number 4, which honestly at this point, like, could potentially be higher, but is Darth Maul. And the reason I like Darth Maul so much is because he's basically born into being in the dark side. So he doesn't really have a choice in terms of, like, because most of the time people like are born or whatever, created, and then they split to either good or bad. Darth Maul is just bad. Doesn't matter how good like he tries to be, he wants to be. He is the dark side. That's how he was created. So you kind of gotta cut him some slack because like he can't help it. And not only that, Obi-Wan kills him. He ends up coming back to life. He is Emperor Palpatine's like number one to start with. He gets shafted by Palpatine because Palpatine's like, I don't care about you. So not only does he hate the Jedi and hate the Republic, but he also then hates the Sith and hates the Empire. So he's kind of like this weird, like, third party that, like, kind of hates both, and then it kind of turns into, like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So even though he's bad, he's still against the Empire. And I mean, throughout like the Clone Wars, and he has a little cameo in Rogue One as like a leader. He does do some pretty bad stuff, but like I think the reason why I would have put him 4 and 5 with Obi-Wan is because him and Obi-Wan have this really weird relationship, like after Obi-Wan kills him, which is like a little weird. But they kind of go back and forth because Darth Maul really like hates Obi-Wan, but like he only hates Obi-Wan because he wants to be Obi-Wan. So it's like a jealousy thing. It's not like because he's a Jedi, or like because he really hates the Jedi. And then last thing I'm going to say about it, there's a really cool scene in Rebels, spoiler alert, Obi-Wan kills him again, and then Darth Maul is pretty much dying in Obi-Wan's arms, which is like weird, just hella weird. And then Maul's like, "Are you here because of the Chosen One?" And he says yes. And then he says, "Avenge us both." And then he dies. So I think it just kind of like gives a good like insight into how he's like that third party character that like
people
you kind of get it, because like sometimes, especially in the Clone Wars, you're like, do you like the Jedi? Like, are they really the good people?
That's
which obviously they are, but yeah, that's
wow,
yeah,
that's pretty damn good. I'll touch on him in a second. Yoda, number 4 for me. I know, right? Like Yoda's number 4. Like who's gonna be your top 3? 4, Yoda. Longevity, obviously, guys, like in everything ever, literally everything ever. He is the face of the Jedi for all that we know it. I mean, the guy is literally like Buddha, but for Jedi. Everybody praises him. I'm pretty sure he's master of all Jedi. Like everybody praises him as master. He is the Jedi. He is the Jedi master guru. Pitka. He is like boom. And as far as his like influence, I mean, you kind of touched on like his downside, like and his influence. Honestly, like he has helped train Anakin, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Mace Windu, Luke Skywalker,
Count Dooku,
Rey, Count Dooku. I mean, he's had to play in all of it, but like he's always seen the good side. I mean, for me, I'm always a big Yoda guy. And before I redid my list, originally Yoda was my number 1. But after I started sitting and thinking about it, I mean, his importance cannot be ignored. But I don't think he is the most important person to everything that is. Yoda, though, easily one of my favorite Jedi. He for me, I relate to him a lot. We're little guys. He's quick, nimble, shifty with the saber. Can't be ignored. I mean, the guy is literally 2 foot nothing, maybe 2.5 foot. I might be wrong. Maybe 3 feet. Maybe give him 3 feet. Nah, we'll go back to 2.
He's like 2 feet.
Yeah. But he trains like like some of the greatest Jedi. I mean, that's sort of important in a way. But just shy of who I think my top 3 are. Now, we're entering the top 3 characters in Star Wars. Number 3, Quinton, lead us off. Take it away.
Number 3 for me is Anakin. And I say Anakin, I guess Anakin Darth Vader, more Anakin. So Anakin and Darth Vader, like, minus Palpatine, like, he is the story, basically, now because Disney owns Star Wars, they're branching off, doing other things, whatever. Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader is the story of Star Wars, like, when you break it down to its bare bones. It all revolves around him and his, like, basically upbringing to his demise, to his death, how his presence influences literally everything in the galactic universe. Like, he plays a part in pretty much every single person, like, on this list, your list, the huge list, the users list.
Why isn't he number 1 then?
Because I have other 2 that are better than him for me. But I think Anakin, like, Anakin specifically, not so much Darth Vader. A lot of people can, like, relate to him because, again, he's just a pissed off teen, and everyone was a pissed off teen. But when you break it down, at the end of the day, at least for Anakin's character, it's about what needs to be done for the greater good. And just kind of like the complete 180 of that is Darth Vader, like, what needs to be done for the Empire. So, yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. Number 3, Anakin Skywalker. That's good. That's interesting. It's a little low for me, but that's okay. Number 3, I've got Chewbacca. Now, like, everybody's like, bro, Chewbacca number 3, what? Dude, he is an freaking G. He's been in every war, in every important moment. He led the pack. I mean, he's literally been a general in all the wars. I mean, not a general per se, but he's been there and had a big part to play in saving some butt. Also, best co-pilot of the Millennium Falcon, who's done some serious work after Han Solo died. Here comes Chewbacca, also helping out the young guns, training them for the next level. I mean,
he was taught to fight by Yoda. Also, if you didn't know that.
But he was there in the battle. In the first, was it episode 3 at Kashyyyk? He's there. He's fighting the clones. They get betrayed. He still lives. And, dude, he literally has outlived some of the craziest moments in Star Wars. He's there. I bet you if you watch all the movies.
Is he now in the current series older than Yoda? I think so. Like, he's
outlived him. I mean, he's still alive. Think about it. He was there in episode 3. He was there in episode 4, 5, and 6. He was there in episodes 7 through 9. He might have made an appearance
He was in Clone Wars.
He's definitely in Clone Wars.
Prior episode 3.
I mean, he's literally, when you're talking about a dude that's had impact, that's had volume, that's very likable, and it also has literally, the guy won't die. He's been shot more times than 50 Cent. The guy is unfreaking stoppable. The guy's unstoppable. Okay, and he's still alive in this world. So if they go episode 10 and Chewie's there, he goes up in my list. If they make another episode and he's like old gray,
he becomes the guy,
and he's still there, he's jumping up on the list, because at this point, then they're like, wow, this dude does not die. If he outlives C-3PO, R2-D2, all the rest of these companions, but he went from a companion to somewhat of a stardom, because, I mean, in the older versions, I mean, everybody knows who Chewbacca is, right? There's T-shirts out there of him. He was sort of that perfect companion. But in the newer ones, I mean, he steps up. And then he's just you got to love him. You got to love him. Chewbacca number 3, one of the most important characters. Okay. 2.
R2-D2. 2 for R2-D2. So R2-D2 gets them out of literally everything all the time, always. Every movie, R2-D2 is there to save the day. Clone Wars, R2-D2 is there to save the day. He constantly saved Anakin. He constantly saved Obi-Wan Kenobi. He constantly saved Princess Padme, which then starts the whole debacle. I mean, again, he's the key piece in the newer movies. because he has the missing link. He's the iconic, like, figure, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, like, for me, he's the most identifiable person or thing, I guess, because he's a robot, to Star Wars, next to Yoda, and again, C-3PO, to go back to what I said before. I don't know. I just think R2-D2 has literally saved Anakin and Obi-Wan so many times that they owe him countless lives.
So I'm going to let you just go ahead and go right into one. I just want you to go right into one. Who is your number one Star Wars character?
My number one Star Wars character is Ahsoka Tano from Clone Wars and partially Rebels, I guess. So for anybody who doesn't know who Ahsoka Tano is Anakin's Padawan who ends up leaving the Jedi Order. She was one of the voices in the last movie as one of the Jedi who speaks to Rey, so she is important. I don't care what anybody says. She's super important. I was reading into her character. Ahsoka's character started, so for anybody who doesn't know, Clone Wars, the show, when it first came out, was still kind of being controlled by George Lucas, and the whole point of her character was to basically bridge the gap between episodes 2 and 3, where Anakin is a child, to like being an adult, which he's not still really an adult in episode 3. That's a whole nother conversation. But that's supposed to be the point of her character. I low-key feel like if there was like a top 3 reasons why Anakin becomes Darth Vader, it's because of her. Long story short, the Jedi Order tries to try her for something that she doesn't do. They believe she did a bad thing. She didn't do that. Nobody believed her except for Anakin. She ends up being proven innocent. Then they're like, oh, yeah, you're coming back to the Jedi Order. And then she's like, no, because none of you guys believe in me. I don't believe in the Jedi Order. Basically failing Anakin. And part of Anakin's whole thing is that the reason why he becomes Darth Vader is because he just thinks he's failing at everything. He failed to save his mom. He failed to be a good Jedi Master to Ahsoka. He thinks he fails Padme, but he doesn't. He just kills her. Yeah. And on top of that, I think, for me, I think she's the only character in Star Wars who is only ever doing, like, what needs to be done for the greater good that doesn't, like, she doesn't have a hidden agenda like everybody else does. Like, whether the agenda is good or bad, she doesn't have anything to hide. She's just doing what needs to be done for the greater good of all people. If I wanted to be a Jedi, I would want to be like Ahsoka. Also, she has white lightsabers, which is pretty cool and really unique. Yeah.
That was the best thing I've ever heard. I was going to bash you for that, but you gave good reasons, so I can't even bash it. I can't even knock it. I will tell you that she is not on my list at all, but I am just scratching the surface with Clone Wars. I get her. I get your angle on it, though. I get that. For number 2 on my list, I go Anakin Skywalker / the Darth Vader. I mean, you put it pretty well. I mean, the guy, he literally is the entire centerpiece of this entire series. I mean, from the old ones being Darth Vader being the perfect enemy to then being the worst but best dad in the entire world in moments and seconds. I mean, he's the worst. He is literally the worst dad. Textbook. I mean, he neglected his kids and turned into a dick, killed his mom or their mom and his wife for jealousy and terrible influence. But his whole character arc is incredible. His I mean, if you look at him, like you said in the early phases, I mean, it's pretty amazing. But it's also amazing to see his influence after the fact, right? Like Kylo Ren wants to model everything after Darth Vader. That's crazy. I mean, we got some of the notorious moves, though, from Darth Vader. Force choke, literally one of the most notorious moves ever. And they could have done it back then in the 70s and 80s. Blessed. Thank God we got that. Which now, like, that's like nothing. That's preschool level stuff because Kylo Ren was stopping bullets. But without Darth Vader, without Anakin Skywalker, without any of that, I mean, you're talking about perfect plot. Here's a kid poor as dirt, racing cars, into, turning into a Padawan and learning the ropes from, the Jedi. Always the only thing, that was ever challenging is that, like, he always was motivated on an emotional level, which you shouldn't do as a Jedi. And that was always challenging for him to get past. As part of being a Jedi, I mean, you really got to put those emotions aside. But he loved his mom. He loved Padme. He was, adamant about those things, which eventually led to his demise and going into the dark side was his emotions, which is interesting. And it kind of leaves you to think, are the Jedis the good guys, or, what is their purpose? I mean, they try to, their version of the perfect world, is that possible? But Anakin's character arc is just, it's awesome. And you got to love Hayden Christensen for just absolutely doing a great job with his 2 episodes that he did. And
given what he had.
Yeah. I mean, he it's crazy. So number 2 for me, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, some notorious moments in Star Wars history. I mean, every one of those episodes 1 through 6, I mean, involve Anakin / Darth Vader in amazing ways. The ending of episode 6, nobody will ever forget it. For our generation, episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when he turns into Darth Vader, that moment will still, every time I watch it, give me chills. So until that dies down, I mean, he's arguably the most important character in Star Wars. But without further ado, my number 1, my day 1, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the best. He is, I mean, you hate him because guess what? He is the Tom Brady of Jedi. The guy is literally killed and is more influential. He sees in more of an intact way than most any other Jedi. When Anakin came on board, when Qui-Gon was like, this kid, Anakin, he's got the stuff. And Obi-Wan's like, I don't know, dude. Kind of got like a little.
Obi-Wan's like, I got the stuff though.
Yeah, but like Obi's like, dude, like I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, why don't you see that in me? Doesn't really say that. Doesn't actually. That has nothing to do with it actually at all. So, but I mean, his impact. He kills Darth Maul. He kills General Grievous. Technically speaking, when he left Anakin to burn and die, you think that he was going to turn into Darth Vader? I don't think so. And technically speaking, they're 1 for 1 if you want to be fucking honest. But I honestly could have told you right now with that first fight in Obi-Wan in his prime, Obi-Wan is the greatest Jedi, has the greatest influence. He is Ben Kenobi. He trains Luke Skywalker. It's just his whole idealism, his character arc. You don't know much prior to him other than he's Qui-Gon's Padawan. And then, Anakin becomes his Padawan. So he's training with the best of the best. And eventually, like, he's like one of the lone survivors. It's like him and Yoda at the end of episode 3. You're like, damn, this is what we got. We got Obi-Wan and Yoda. How are we going to take it? Yoda was hiding in the forest. Ben Kenobi's watching over Luke. Luke's like, one day, oh, guess what? Boom, Ben Kenobi. And guess what? Luke Skywalker eventually changed everything. And then the new series, hogwash. But still, Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the most important characters, one of the most influential. As far as, like, power level goes, straight to the top. I don't know. I would love to see him and, like, Darth Sidious duke it out. Granted, there were times where he couldn't even fight Count Dooku, which blows my mind because he literally kills like Darth Maul with fucking ease and General Grievous with 4 lightsabers with ease, and then he beats Anakin Skywalker.
Kills Darth Maul twice.
Twice. 2 times. But then he also kills and makes Anakin Skywalker Darth Vader. He is the corner piece of hatred to Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
Than Darth Vader. So number 1.
Which doesn't make him Kenobi.
And he's my favorite. I don't care what anybody says. Obi-Wan, don't at me. You could shoot anybody at me. I will always want and put my guy against anybody, and I'll take my odds. Okay, honorable mentions. Those who didn't make the list, who I feel basically my honorable mentions are people who I really just loved as characters. Or had some importance that I didn't mention. General Grievous thought he was a badass with 4 lightsabers, and he just looked disgusting and awesome at the same time. Count Dooku, he's just a dick, but he wielded a cool lightsaber, also pretty powerful, kind of has an important influence because he's kind of just pushes Obi-Wan and Anakin all the time. Lando, always another good companion. He's always there when you need him, but he's kind of a dick for the most part, and he's kind of a player, so watch your stuff. And then Jyn Erso, I don't even know if I'm saying her name right. She was the one in Rogue One, got the map plans for the Death Star. That's kind of important, but it isn't at the same time. Just Disney running a money plot, but her character was kind of cool. I kind of liked her. Qui-Gon Jinn, if he was in more than one movie, straight to the top. Only one movie, he was the master of my favorite Obi-Wan Kenobi, should be up higher. Darth Maul, another one. If he made more appearances, I know he's in the Clone Wars again, but again, guy makes one appearance. I wanted to put him on there. He just is like the epitome of what I remember as a kid just being terrified of. Yellow eyes, red, black, horns, scary as shit. Should be in the top 15, but again, he doesn't. When you watch Episode 1 again, The Phantom Menace, he doesn't do much other than make really good appearances with a hood and yellow eyes and just like double friggin' ended saber where he's like, wee, wee, wee. That's where I'm going to leave that. So those are my honorable mentions. Go ahead, Q.
Honorable mentions for me, Cal Kestis from the new Jedi Fallen Order game. And then Devin hates me for it. Whatever. Jar Jar Binks, you got to put him in there. As annoying as he was, he did have some level of importance. So definitely not a 15, honorable. Just because of the hype, I really don't want to put it on here, but Baby Yoda. I mean, come on. Baby Yoda. Everybody knows Baby Yoda. All the memes, type shit, end of story. And then for me, which is the weird one, is Padme for an honorable mention. Again, the age thing just doesn't get her into the favorite top 15.
We don't know. She's
like, you're 17, he's 6, now you're together. Weird. Yeah. So that's mine. I think I only had 4. I didn't have as many.
This has gone a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, so we're going to kind of try to zoom through the top 15 of the user picks. So I asked people, who are your top 3 favorite characters? So for my statistic teachers, I screwed this one up because I didn't really put any context to it other than who are your 3 favorite characters. And we've compiled a list. Thank you to the 130 people who took this. Holy cow. And we took all the picks, and these were the top 15 selected people. So if yours didn't make the cut, I'm sorry. I was going to make an honorable mention, but like there were so many people that got picked. It's insane. And it's just, there was a big list. So top 15 characters that you guys thought. We're going to start at 15 with votes. I mean, these are just votes. This has no context to it. I can't even tell you like it's based on most importance. It's probably just based on who fans like the most. Yes, who's your favorite? Number 15, Bold. Coming from the audience. Didn't make it on any of our list.
Really?
Boba Fett. The bounty hunter. Look out, gunslinger. Trying to revenge his dad, Django. Bang, bang, bang. And he still gets killed by Han Solo. Bang, bang, bang. Number 15. I don't really know what other perspectives people have on it other than he's a badass dual wielder. Back in the Dizzo of the oldies, episodes 4 through 6, he's the guy you love to hate. He's the one that freezes freaking Han Solo and puts everybody in the money trap. Boom. Roasted. Boba Fett, number 15 from you guys. Number 14. Quentin, I'm going to let you touch up on this one.
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar.
Kind of shocking. I'm not going to lie to you. It's probably the nostalgia thing.
I think for our generation, I'll tell you my take real quick. I think he's fucking annoying. And now I've capped out completely on swears. But seriously, he like, whoa, Mister coming for me. Like, dude, what purpose do you serve? What purpose do you serve? He is illiterate. You pretty much know he's like Shaggy of Star Wars, like Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo series. I know all my homies know that, and I love Shaggy. I do. But picture that on drugs amplified, and you get Jar Jar, and he's way more annoying. So anyways, 13. Mace Windu. I mean, he's just a badass, right? I mean, that's kind of the take, right? I mean, I have to assume he's just a badass.
I gotta imagine all these are like nostalgia picks.
Yeah.
Most of them, it seems like.
Yep. I have to tell you guys right away, nobody in the new series made it in the top 15. Unbelievable. So not surprised. I don't think a lot of people like the new series.
Not even BB-8. Shocking.
No. Number 12. Go ahead, Q.
Ahsoka Tano. Too low.
Somebody's watching the Clone Wars. Somebody's watching the Clone Wars.
Someone's watching it.
Number 12, that's high.
She's kind of like the main person of like the new like final season that Disney Plus is putting out. So that's kind of like her thing.
This one's kind of surprising at number 11, and I think this is going to shock.
This one got me.
Luke Skywalker. You guys, Luke Skywalker is number 11 on the votes. On the votes, his favorite character. So obviously, we are justified in our reasoning. So, boom. Number 10, General Grievous. Four lightsaber McGee. I don't really know why people really like him that much. Maybe it's because he had 4 lightsabers. I don't know. And he's just
could be a Clone Wars thing too, because that's like the main.
But like in the movies, like 2 and 3, like he's like, I mean, he just looks cool. I don't know if he really is cool. He just looks cool. He's kind of a soft.
He just seems unstoppable unless you're
Obi-Wan. Unless you're Tom Brady of Jedi, which is number 9. Really pissed off about this one because for a while this person wasn't even on the top 15. So either the people I asked, which by the way consisted of teachers from high school, college, people I went to college with, people I went to high school with, friends of friends, Star Wars junkies, not Star Wars junkies, people who've watched one movie, people who've watched everything. And number 9, Baby Yoda. Everybody who voted for Baby Yoda, why? What is it he doesn't do he does things. He does things, but it's just because he's cute, huh? You're just gonna throw data? You're just gonna ruin my whole thing with his cuteness? Maybe that's fair. We have yet to see where the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
He force chokes. Just remember, kids, he force chokes in the Mandalorian. So, and he's like supposed to be an infant, and he's force choking people. Just saying.
Scary. Number 8, Qui-Gon. I mean, you got to imagine that, again, it's a nostalgia thing, and
that was my number 8. Nice.
Number 7, Han Solo. I think this is probably where people are thinking to themselves, the oldies but goodies, and like Han Solo. He's icon. Harrison Ford plays big factor into that, just like Samuel L. Jackson was for Mace Windu. Big fan of that pick. Number 6, Darth Maul.
Yes. See, people get it. I had a good reasoning. People get it.
I think, again, he's just like the perfect example of everything that made you not sleep when you were a kid.
Yeah. When
I
he
mean, I
did
remember
in
being
Clone
scared
Wars,
when I first watched it.
in the Clone Wars, when he's like a half spider, that shit's scary. Like that's supposed to be a children's show and he's a half Spider-Man. Like I would be terrified. If I was like a 7-year-old child watching that, I'd be terrified.
Yeah, he's
Absolutely
scary.
terrified.
He's scary. Number 5, R2 Beep Bop D2. Obviously, the guy is way important, but C3PO doesn't even make it in the list. Whoa, so we got some beef there, people. I don't know I don't know. So R2D2, number 5, number 4. Chewbacca, love it. Get my boy up there. Obviously, we love Chewie. He is, I think people just, I mean, he's just icon. He is going to be, he's a legend. He's a legend. I don't know how people think about these things. I'm like, you really, Chewbacca's your favorite. I guess Han Solo, Chewbacca up there, I guess. Number 3, Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. I think if he was more, I don't know why he's not. I don't know. It was really close. I have to tell you, the top 3 were really close. But they absolutely annihilated. These top 3 annihilated. Like at least one person mentioned one of these people in the top 3. Like one person mentioned them, and like that's it. So Anakin and Darth Vader, number 3. Number 2, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who just finished just ahead of Anakin. And last but not least, the number 1 user, the you guys thought was your absolute favorite character or that got the most votes, is Yoda. Yeah. Quinton's number 15, you guys is number 1. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes, and I didn't do an honorable mention because there were like so many characters that got voted, and I liked a lot of them. We could shout out all the ones that didn't get mentioned. I don't want to do that either. We're going to talk about a lot of it. You guys stay tuned. We're going to come at you with part 2 of ranking the best movies, and we also have your list. So get ready. Buckle up. Hopefully it's not another hour-and-a-half episode like tonight's was, because holy cow, I didn't realize talking about the top 15 characters was going to be so juicy. Just as a revised,
Here we are.
quick pick, my top 3 right out of the gate: Obi-Wan, number 1, number 2, Anakin, and number 3, Chewbacca. Quinton, who are your top 3?
Number 1, Ahsoka Tano. Number 2, R2D2. Number 3, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. Pretty much hit it on the head.
So, kids, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you guys soon for part 2. Stay tuned, and thank you guys for listening. Make sure you follow, subscribe, like, share, the whole 9, and we'll see you guys soon on the next episode of The Common Thread. Peace!